Hey everyone, I'm Alex Valbergs with CSTV Sports.
And I'm Gulino.
And we're going to get right into it with fantasy football advice for Week 11. Quarterback I really like for this week, we both like a lot, is Carson Palmer. He's averaging 40 attempts per game, over 300 yards a game. He has 15 touchdowns, and Oakland's playing the Saints, so they're going to be throwing a lot because the Saints are high scoring. And I see Palmer throwing it 45, 50 times this game, which is why I also like Denarius Moore, his teammate. He scored 4 out of the past 5 games, and I expect that to continue. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. And, we're just really all in on the Raiders. I know you like a Raider as well, CJ. Who do you like?
Yeah, I really do. I really like Carson Palmer. I just think that with the Saints defense just being so pathetic this year, that he's going to be able to throw all over them. I think that, like you said, I think he's going to be throwing a lot. And I think he's going to be able to put up big numbers, probably 300 plus. He's going to have 40 to 45 attempts. I just don't see him having a bad day pretty much. I think that Brandon Myers, his tight end, I think that he's going to have a huge day too. I mean, he's leading Oakland in receptions. So with Carson Palmer dropping back so many times, I think he's bound to hit Myers, 6-7 times during the game, put up maybe 100 yards receiving, maybe a touchdown in the red zone. I think he's going to have a good day.
Yeah, Brandon Myers has been quietly consistent this year. He's been maybe a top 10 to 12 tight end, and not a lot of people know about him. But moving on, I really also like Danny Amendola this week. He just came back from injury last week, and people were really worried that his injury was life-threatening, which apparently it wasn't. He recovered very quickly, and he had a big game last week in his return against the Niners. He's averaging 7 receptions a game, and if you got him, you probably got to start him as your number 2 or your flex wide receiver because he's just so consistent. He's going to catch the ball a lot, and especially in PPR, he's just a monster. Also, with running backs, I do like C.J. Spiller tonight. Spiller's playing the Dolphins, and Fred Jackson is out. So with Fred Jackson out and Spiller getting maybe 20 to 25 touches, I think he's going to have a monster game. He's averaging 8 yards per touch this year on 115 touches, which is just unbelievable. He should be getting more, and it's taken a Fred Jackson injury to get him that, but I expect a huge game from C.J. Spiller tonight. I think he's a top 3 to 5 running back. And I also like Stephen Ridley of the Patriots. People wouldn't know it. It's been kind of a quiet. Everybody thinks Patriots. They think passing. They think Brady, Welker, Hernandez, Gronkowski, all the tight ends. But Stephen Ridley is in the top 6 in all big rushing categories: rushing yards, rushing attempts, and rushing touchdowns. He's quietly been a top 8 running back this year in fantasy, and I expect to have him another big game against the Colts this week. You like a running back who's, he might not be on everybody's radar, but you said you got a gut feeling about him, CJ. Who is it?
Yeah, I just really have a gut feeling about James Starks. I don't really have that many facts to back it up. It's kind of just going with my gut. I just feel like he's going to have a big, big day this week, only because I feel like the Packers are going to start going towards Starks more, just because their rushing game has just not been up to par this year at all. I mean, they're just relying on Rodgers to do everything, and that can't happen forever. I think their rushing average is maybe 3 yards a carry. And, I mean, that's just not going to cut it. So I think James Starks, when he does get a lot of carries, I think he's very, very capable to bust open a big week.
Yeah, Alex Green's been pretty bad for the Packers so far. They haven't been able to run the ball. And with running backs like Lynch, Chris Johnson, Peterson, and Mod Bradshaw on bye, James Starks could be a nice fill-in. But moving on to the guys that we don't like this week, neither of us like Matt Schaub, even though he is on your favorite team, the Texans.
Yeah, that's my quarterback.
Why don't you like Matt Schaub this week?
I don't. Unfortunately, I think you should sit Matt Schwab, only because I think they're going to be up really early on Jacksonville, and I think that's going to turn into a big day, just pounding the ball with Arian Foster. They've been feeding him the rock all year. He's a horse this year, and I think Schwab's going to not end up throwing a lot, and I just don't think he's going to be able to put up big numbers, unfortunately.
Yeah, Schaub's only throwing about 30 times a game, and like CJ said, I think they're going to get up early and on Jacksonville and probably just run the ball out a lot. So not crazy about Schaub this week. You're also not crazy about Larry Fitzgerald. He's one of the best wide receivers in football. Do you really think people should sit him, or you just temper expectations on Fitzgerald?
I don't think you can really. If you can afford to sit Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, good for you. But, I mean, most people can't. So, I mean, if you're going to play him, I wouldn't expect big things out of him, just because a wide receiver can't produce with no quarterback to get him the ball. Larry Fitzgerald is fantastic, arguably one of the best, if not the best, top 3 receivers in the game. I just don't think that he can produce by himself. He needs someone to throw him the ball, and in Arizona, they just don't have that this year.
Yeah, their offense has been pretty bad. He's really he's the only talented player, it seems, on that offense right now. Another talented player, though, is Mike Wallace of the Steelers. I love Mike Wallace's talent. He might be the fastest receiver in football, but Ben Roethlisberger is more than likely out this week, and with Byron Leftwich coming in to play quarterback, I don't know if you can expect much from Mike Wallace. Last week he only had 3 catches for 14 yards and a touchdown. And a touchdown was one of the best plays I've seen in a while. But with Leftwich at quarterback, I don't know how much you can trust Mike Wallace this week. And another guy I don't trust at all is Des Bryant. I don't like this guy. He's so inconsistent. It just seems like one week he has 13 catches and 2 touchdowns, and the next week he has 2 catches for 15 yards. I don't trust him. If you have better options, I really think you should sit this guy down. I don't have like a whole lot of information to back that up. I just think he's way too inconsistent. I just wouldn't want him on my team. Jamal Charles. A couple weeks ago, I talked about what a talented running back he is and how much I liked his skill set, which I still do. But last week he had a big game, and but this week you don't like him. What are the reasons for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Jamal Charles fan this week, only because they're playing I think it's the 4th best defense in the league with Cincinnati, and the Chiefs really don't have another weapon through the air. I mean, they have Dwayne Bowe, Matt Castle, but the Cincinnati Bengals know that Jamal Charles is the guy for the Chiefs to put up points, and he's fantastic. And I'm not saying you should bench him because it's Jamal Charles. You might not be able to afford to bench him. I just don't think that you should really expect him to have a week like last week.
Yeah, Charles is kind of in the same boat as Larry Fitzgerald. He's the most talented player in the offense, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of help other than that. If you can bench Jamal Charles, you must have a lot of running back depth, because it would be hard for me to do that. 2 running backs that I really don't like are Murtagh of the Detroit Lions. Other than his first game, they debuted this year against the Titans where he had 100 yards, and his 3-touchdown game a couple weeks ago. He really hasn't done that much. He's only averaging about 4 yards per carry. And I'm just not crazy about him this week. The Lions are playing the Packers. There's going to be a lot of throwing in that between Stafford and Rodgers. And I don't know how much LaShore will even be on the field because of Joique Bell, who's been taking a lot of 3rd down snaps from him because he's a much better receiver out of the backfield. So I'm not crazy about Murtagh LaShore this week. I'm also not crazy about Rashad Jennings. Since he took over as a starter for Maurice Jones-Drew, he hasn't eclipsed 60 yards rushing. And I don't expect it to continue versus Houston, who is the 4th best rushing defense in football. So I really think you could afford to sit Rashad Jennings this week. I think he kind of proved that despite that he has a starting role and he's getting 15 to 20 touches a game, sometimes that's not enough to start in fantasy. But that's about all the time we have for this week. I'm Alex Valbergs.
I'm CJ Gulino.
And I hope the fantasy gods are on your side in Week 11.